Hello Captain, welcome to another Warship craft video. Today, I will be discussing the components of an aircraft carrier and how you can make your own. Aircraft carriers are the glass cannons of a fleet, capable of dishing out precision strikes from great distances. However, these vessels are not heavily armored and are commonly escorted by other ships due to their inability to sustain bombardments from the enemy. When designing your aircraft carrier in Warship craft, there are a variety of factors you must consider. First and foremost, you must set your budget. The aircraft carrier can be broken down into three categories: the vessel, the weaponry, and the origin. The first category is the vessel, which has three sub-tiers: the hull, the deck, and the superstructure. In this guide, the hull of your aircraft carrier will be defined as everything below the waterline. To start your carrier, first decide on a width that you would like to use. The following are some examples of carrier widths, in which the red represents ballasts and the magenta represents armor. These examples range between 7 and 13 blocks in width, which is a constraint I highly recommend you abide by. Once you decide your width, you must now consider how to design your bow. In this video, the bow is defined as the point at which your hull starts to angle inward. The image below depicts an aircraft carrier with a width of 5. This is shown with the red blocks. The magenta blocks represent the length that your bow should generally be with regards to that width. On a carrier that is 5 blocks wide, your bow should be near 11 blocks in length. For a 7-block width, your bow should be near 15 blocks in length. For 9 blocks, your bow should be roughly 21. For 11 blocks, your bow should be roughly 27. For 13 blocks, your bow should be roughly 32. Here is an example of a bow design for a carrier that is 9 blocks wide. As described previously, this bow's length should be 21 blocks, which it is. On modern carriers, please note that you can add a bulbous bow. Here are some examples of a bulbous bow. Now that you have your bow done, you are a third of the way through designing your hull. The next portion of our carrier is the midsection, which is the part between the bow and the stern. For older carriers, your midsection should be the exact same length of your bow. If your bow was 21 blocks, then your midsection should be 21 blocks. However, for modern carriers, your midsection should be 1.5 times the length of your bow. So, if your bow is 21 blocks long, just multiply this by 1.5. In calculating this, the midsection should be roughly 31.5 blocks long. If you get a decimal place when performing your calculations, always round up the nearest whole number. In this case, your midsection ends up being 32 blocks long. The midsection is uniform throughout and does not require incurved designs or slopes. The final portion of your hull is the stern. For older carriers, you can calculate the length your stern should be by multiplying the length of the bow by 0.75, meaning, if you have a bow that is 21 blocks long, your stern should be 16 blocks long, which was rounded from the calculated answer of 15.75. For modern carriers, your stern should only be half the length of your bow, or 0.5 times the length. So, if your bow is 21 blocks long, your stern should be 11 blocks long, which was rounded from 10.5. The final task before you complete your hull is to make propeller slots in the stern. For carriers between 5 and 9 blocks in width, add 2 propellers. For carriers exceeding 9 blocks in width, add 4. Now that we have completed the hull sub-tier, it is time to design the deck. Your first task in designing the deck is to decide where you want your island. You can have it in one of 3 places: on the leftmost side of the carrier, in the middle, or on both sides. If you want it on the left like most carriers, here is how you should set up your deck. If you want to split the island into 2, here is how your deck should be set up. Finally, for a central island, this is how you should set up your deck. The portion marked in red is where your plane elevator or elevators will go. These are not required, as they would only be aesthetic, but here are some examples of elevators if you choose to add them. A universal code for both modern and older carriers, however, is that you make the deck 1 block in thickness. The portion below the deck but above the waterline is free for you to design. Just make sure that the height of this section is the exact same as the height of your hull. The final sub-tier in this category is the island. There is no set guide for designing your island unless you are making a historic model, so feel free to experiment. If you chose to put your island on the left side of your carrier, you will have to compensate for this added weight on the opposite side. You can do this by replacing armored blocks with triple ballasts, or by placing your engines on this side. Successfully balancing your ship can only be done through trial and error, so keep attempting until you get it right. Now that you have finished the vessel, we will move on to Category 2, the weaponry. First and foremost, you must decide what kind of planes you want on your carrier. Currently in Warship Craft, you have access to 13 planes: the Sopwith Pup, the Aichi D3A, the SBD Dauntless, the Yokosuka D4Y1 Susuri, the Fairy Swordfish, the TBF Avenger, the Mitsubishi A6M0, the F4F Wildcat, the F6F Hellcat, the Nakajima B5N, the Spitfire, the Messerschmitt Bf109, and the F4U Corsair. Unless you are building historic, feel free to mix your squadrons with a variety of nation-specific planes. Other than aircraft, your carrier should be heavily fortified with anti-air mounts. Your carrier can also include minimal armament for defending against destroyers and other lightly armored opponents, but make sure you do not use an excessive amount. Finally, you must consider the origin of your carrier. Unless your carrier is a historic model, meaning the colors, name, and nationality have already been determined, you will need to produce these things independently. Here are a few examples of color palettes you can use on your carrier. Your carrier name can be whatever you choose, but be sure to specify the fleet to which it belongs by abbreviating the fleet name and putting it before the vessel name. Thank you very much for watching, Captain. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and comment your feedback below, as it helps me develop as a YouTuber. Hopefully the game starts to develop soon, as I do not want to stop making videos on it. Until we meet in port again, Captain, fair seas to you.